What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Kid Taj, and today we're going to be talking about the Houston Rockets. Now, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like down below, subscribe if you're new, comment an idea what I should do a video on down below in the comments section. But today we're going to be talking about, as I said before, the Houston Rockets. We got a MyPark gameplay here, and yeah, let's get into it. This is a very interesting video that I'm making today because into the season I made my predictions, my East and Western Conference, who's gonna rank where, who is gonna seed where, 1 through 15 for each conference. So I did a whole video about who's gonna finish where, when the playoffs start, I should say. I had the Houston Rockets being, I believe, an 8th seed in the Western Conference. I think that's what it was. If it wasn't, it was a 9th seed. I wasn't high on this team. I wasn't high on James Harden. I wasn't high on this team's defense. Looking at the squad, I was just worried sick for their defense. Just because you look at the guys they throw out there, it's like, how is this team gonna survive on that end of the floor? You've got a starting lineup of Gordon, Harden, Ariza, Capella, and Ryan Anderson. 3 of those guys are net negative defensive players by a long shot, and those guys are Eric Gordon, James Harden, and Ryan Anderson. Also, with James Harden playing the point guard, I really doubted a team being able to be led by one guy who is playing point guard now and naturally a shooting guard when he came into the league, but James Harden really transcended his game into a point guard's game, a do-it-all playmaker point guard that can also score like crazy. And he's become the leader of the team, obviously, but I didn't really expect this type of output, not only from him, but from the rest of the team. The guys have shown that they agree with the system being run. They think that James Harden is capable of leading this team to a home court advantage playoff spot, which they currently are in position for. They're a top 4 team in the Western Conference as of today. And, you know, I think it's funny because I don't think we've heard enough about the Houston Rockets, because I don't think anybody thought that James Harden had the capability to lead a team to this level, because we all thought, well, James Harden is gonna he's gonna play 40 minutes a game, lead the league in minutes again, and try to get this team over 500, but the role players won't be good enough and he won't be able to do it. I'll tell you how great James Harden is of an offensive player. I mean, not only is this guy tops in the league in assists, he's a top 10 scorer in the NBA. I believe he's actually top 5. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's up there in scoring and assists. He's an elite scorer and he's an elite playmaker. Now, the crazy part is that the Houston Rockets are 2nd in the NBA in points per game. 2nd in the NBA in points per game. You only have one go-to scoring player, and you're 2nd in the NBA in points per game. That's how great of a player James Harden is. I don't know about any other players in the NBA being able to lead a team by themselves with a 2nd-ranked offense. LeBron James has led his team to the 3rd-ranked offense, but he's got great offensive players on his team, including Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love, guys who can give the ball to, tell them to score, and they can score. James Harden doesn't have anybody like that on his team. Maybe Eric Gordon, you tell him, oh, here, pull up for 3, but Eric Gordon doesn't have that versatile of an offensive game. I mean, he's not like the terrific slashing guard that can get anywhere on the floor and is super quick. He's really more of a shooter, and he's more of a spot-up shooter at that. He's better set up off of James Harden's passes. They don't have a guy that can really play make either. Patrick Beverley is not a typical playmaking guard. He's a defensive guard. He's a lockdown defender, but he's not a playmaking point guard, a guy that can set people up. Eric Gordon is not that either. He's a shooting guard traditionally, and he's still playing shooting guard as Harden is the point guard in that system. Now, Harden's the only playmaker on this team. Harden is the only guy that can get his own shot for the most part on this team, which is so crazy because they are scoring over 112 points per game, good enough for 2nd in the NBA, behind only the Warriors, who are scoring 120 points per game, and you obviously know why that is. The Rockets don't have even close to as good as playmakers or scorers as the Warriors. I mean, James Harden, I'd argue that he's a better playmaker than everybody on the Golden State Warriors roster, and that includes Draymond Green, because I know Draymond Green's I know how great of a playmaker he is, but James Harden can playmake solely off of himself. I think Green is such a good playmaker, gets a lot of assists because he's got such great threats, and it really opens up for other people. finding somebody that can shoot the ball isn't hard on that team because you got so many threats. You got Curry and Durant just chilling on the three-point line. Well, you can just get an assist whenever you want, really. I mean, Draymond Green's a smart enough player to do that. James Harden doesn't have that kind of privilege because he has to create everything himself. No one is going to create a presence. You know, Ryan Anderson standing at the three-point line, he's not that guy that's like, okay, we can't let him do anything. We got to shut him down. It's like, you got to guard him on the three-point line, but he's nothing special besides, knocking down three-pointers. I mean, I think that's what works about this. Mike D'Antoni has created a genius offensive system while you run the offense through James Harden. He knew James Harden was capable, and you place shooters around him that can hit shots. It's a lot like what the Cleveland Cavs are doing. Because when you look at the Cavs, you look at who they place around LeBron James. You want to have three guys beside him that can all shoot the lights out, which they do in Kyrie Irving, J.R. Smith, and Kevin Love, and a center down low that can defend at the rim, get rebounds, be athletic, dunk alley-oops. You don't need that center to shoot the three. And also, you got to go off the bench in Channing Frye that can hit threes and play that center if, it's not doing the job. You want to go small. You want to have everybody a shooter because LeBron is such a good playmaker that he can set people up anywhere and as good as anyone in the league. And that's why you put so many shooters around him, because when he drives to the rim, he attracts so much attention. He has got to kick it out and make something happen. James Harden isn't 6'8". He's not 250. He's not that big. He's not that strong. He's not that fast. He's not that good. He's not as good as LeBron in terms of getting into the lane. I mean, in terms of, what he has in physical build. But James Harden is a super smart player. He's got amazing dribble moves. He can get to the basket anytime he wants because of those things. And he's actually deceptively strong. One of the strongest guards in the NBA for that matter. And it's the same type of thing as I said with LeBron. They play shooters around James Harden and an athletic, defensive-minded center that can grab rebounds and catch lobs in Clint Capella. But the main point is you have Eric Gordon, Trevor Ariza, and Ryan Anderson alongside James Harden, and we all know those guys. We know those guys as shooters. That's why this works, because he puts shooters around James Harden. He kicks it out. No wonder why Houston Rockets are the number one team in casting up three-pointers, because they got all those shooters on that team. Now, let's talk about contending. The Houston Rockets are 15-7. That's good enough for 4th seed in the Western Conference. They're a half game behind the 3rd-seeded LA Clippers in the Western Conference. The Houston Rockets are also the 5th best record in the NBA. If they were a Eastern Conference team, they would be the 2nd best team in the Eastern Conference and only be behind the Cleveland Cavaliers by 1 game. Now, this is all incredible stuff, but I can't see this team as a contender, and I'll tell you guys why. It's because contenders have to be balanced teams. You got to have a guy leading the charge, which they do. James Harden is a terrific leader. He's been that so far this season. You got to have shooters. They have shooters. They've got Ariza, Gordon, Anderson. If one guy goes cold, not everybody's going to go cold, okay? They've got enough shooters that they can survive if someone decides to go cold at some point during the playoffs. However, the way I don't see them surviving in the playoffs is because their defense is one of the worst among teams in the playoff picture right now. They've got the 3rd worst defense out of all teams that are in the playoff picture. Those 2 teams that they have a better defense than are the Blazers, who give up 112.5 points per game. The Blazers have the worst defense in the Western Conference and the 2nd worst defense in the NBA. And the other team is the New York Knicks, who give up 107 points per game. We all know how terrible the Knicks are on defense. The Rockets are a really bad defensive team. They're not balanced. They have a good point differential. They play good at home and good on the road, but they don't have a good defense. They give up three-pointers. Their perimeter guys can't guard. Ryan Anderson can't guard. And that bench isn't doing enough in that aspect to make them a true contender. I like what they're doing right now. They're utilizing their strengths, and they're winning based on what they can do well, and they're not exactly improving the weakness of their opponent's points per game defense is what I'm referring to. They're really bad in terms of opponent's points per game, and if you want to be a playoff team, you can't give up a lot of points. Defense is a really important thing once you get into the playoffs, and while the Rockets do have a really good point differential, I mean, I believe they're 5th in the NBA in point differential, 2nd or 3rd in their conference. Their defense needs to step it up. They got to have a good defense if you want to be a contender in the league. Yes, you got to have a really good defense. And, besides that, I think they could totally be a contender. I mean, this team, they've got the star power. James Harden has shown so far that he has what it takes to get this team where it needs to go. I have no doubts in James Harden anymore. I doubted him last season, and he proved me wrong. I'll admit that. Because as a point guard in this league, I actually did think he was going to be really good as a point guard, so I wasn't wrong about that. I was wrong about how good he was. He's just better than I thought he was, and he's doing so much as a point guard as opposed to what he's playing shooting guard. I guess and it was kind of weird because he was basically playing point guard back then. I mean, it's not like he wasn't bringing the ball up and handling every possession, but I guess, you swap out Beverly for Gordon. I think that makes a huge difference because it adds a shooter, a consistent shooter on the perimeter. And James Harden, he loves having shooters. That's going to do it for this video. So, yeah, the verdict, I don't think so yet. They need that defense to be a lot better. And their big men just aren't intimidating at all right now. And I think that's got to improve. But, they got the shooting. They've got the offensive game. They got the superstar player. Yeah, I think they have areas to improve, but other than that, they definitely have a shot at being a contender. Maybe not this year, but definitely in years to come. They've got a really nice squad in Houston. That's going to do it for this video. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and idea down below. Subscribe if you're new. I'm out. Thanks for watching, y'all. Peace.